Some key points that I learned by going to the museum was that even though the Japanese were not trusted by Americans during World War II, or even after, they were still determined to become citizens and pursue higher education. Another thing is that they really emphasized on etiquette and art because it was a gateway to creativity for each individual. For my second cultural plunge, I went to a Buddhist temple, but I couldn't provide pictures of going inside because it's a sacred place. I went to the Koyasan Buddhist temple located in LA, and it was started in 1912, and some of the services they have is talismans and cleansings. Because the temple is considered a sacred ground, taking pictures or videos was prohibited, and so we could only take pictures of the outside scenery. Though the temple is located in an alleyway, it's still very popular and visited by many. Here's a picture of statues of deities in front of the temple. Some of the services that the temple had was cleansings, where monks would help you become one with your mind and body, and talismans and prayer services. A cleanse is a Buddhist ritual where someone can become one with their mind and spirit, but is only able to eat a few grains of rice a day, because by not eating, you are able to overcome the craving for food and become one with your spirit. My experience by going to the Buddhist temple was very positive because the Buddhist monks were very polite and patient whenever I had questions. I also witnessed many people joining in by reciting mantras or praying for their families. There was also food provided for those who visited. Something I learned by going to the temple was that Buddha was not a god, instead he was a sage, and thus Buddhism is considered a teaching. When I went to the Buddhist temple, the atmosphere was very serene and peaceful, even though there were many people in the temple doing different things, whether it be praying, talking to the monks, eating, or just being one with their mind and soul. Now I'm going to compare the two experiences and how it connects to our class. Some similarities that the two experiences had is that the Japanese also follow Buddhist teachings and go to temple, and that the two experiences had were very heartwarming and very serene, and everyone wanted to help. The history is also very deep and complicated, but it was both very easy to understand due to everyone's help. Just like how the Japanese were not welcomed by Americans in the beginning, Buddhism was not either. Some other similarities would be that there are many festivals in Japan that are celebrated at Buddhist temples, such as New Year's Day, Obon, which is a Buddhist Memorial Day, and Buddhist Thanksgiving, and many more. Some differences would be that the most popular religion in Japan is Shintoism, where it's the way of thinking in life, and that at the museum, the history of the Japanese were displayed and easy to see and read and understand, while at the temple, the history of Buddhism was not so easy to understand and thus had to be explained by a monk. In Chapter 2 of Banks, the text talks about overgeneralizing a culture of religion in schools. And in many textbooks, we hear about the United States creating the Constitution in order for everyone to be free and a citizen, and yet they only briefly talk about the Japanese and how they were neglected in their wanting to become a citizen. Another overgeneralization would be when teachers are not educated in a specific culture or custom, and thus they stereotype these holidays and what these people celebrate or wear or eat. In Chapter 5, Christian Nation or Pluralistic Culture, the text states that though the United States tolerated different religions, Christianity was considered the most dominant influence, and it tied in because Buddhism was not welcome in the beginning, because many Americans did not believe that these teachings were similar to their beliefs. In Chapter 17 of the text, it states that the importances and concerns of parents and the communities were essential to educating children, just like how back in the day Japanese children were not allowed in certain extracurriculars like sports and art, but the communities created it for them so that they would thrive. In conclusion, both experiences were a pleasure and enlightening experience, and that I will definitely repeat again. So thank you very much for reading this.
created using Powtoon.